the chair that rocked itself. Tonight's story is one of those that starts off completely normal, but ends up halfway to nightmare. What you're about to hear is based on real events, tenant videos, neighbor statements, landlord repair notes, and details that still don't add up after months. It's the kind of case where you wake up to an old rocking chair moving on its own, slow, steady, like someone is sitting in it while the house is supposed to be empty. No wind, no draft, just a soft creak back and forth like someone finally found a place to rest. If you like stories that make you question every creak in your house and check your own furniture tonight, stick around, because this one gets stranger the longer the rocking continues. Let's begin. In summer 2025, 4-year-old accountant Marcus lived in a small one-story rental with creaky floors and an old wooden rocking chair from his grandmother. He kept it in the living room corner, never used it much, just a sentimental piece. First few weeks, nothing unusual. Then one night around 1:20 a.m., he woke to a faint creak, slow rocking back and forth from the living room. He lay still, listened. Creak, creak, steady rhythm. He told himself it was wind or settling wood, went back to sleep. 2 nights later, same time, the rocking returned. This time he got up, walked to the doorway. Chair moving gently, seat cushion depressed slightly, like someone was sitting there. No one visible. He stepped closer, rocking slowed, then stopped. He touched the chair, still warm. He laughed nervously, blamed drafts, went back to bed. The next night, he set up his phone camera, pointed at the chair, went to sleep. At 1:33 a.m., footage showed the chair start rocking, slow, deliberate. No wind, no draft, no strings. Seat cushion dipped deeper, as if weight shifted. Then, faintly, a sigh, soft, content, like someone relaxing after a long day. Marcus watched the clip, heart racing, unplugged the chair, moved it to the garage. Rocking stopped for a week. He thought it was over. Then one night, 2:05 a.m., creaking from the garage. He went out, chair rocking again, in the dark, by itself. He watched from the door, rocking steady, then slowed, stopped. Next morning, he threw the chair away, drove it to the dump. That night, back home, he heard it again. Faint creak from his bedroom corner, where he had never put a chair. He turned on the light, nothing there. But the floorboards in that exact spot were warm. He moved out 2 days later, left the key, never looked back. New tenant lasted 12 days. Posted online. The rocking started in the living room and followed me to the bedroom. It sighs like it's tired. Officially, no intruder, no structural fault, no explanation. But former tenants say the house feels heavier at night, like someone finally sat down after standing for years. And if you hear a faint creak in an empty room, very late, when everything is dead quiet, you might feel the air shift like something is settling in, waiting for you to leave again. We may never know who or what was using that chair, or how long it had been waiting for a place to rest. Was it always in the wood, patient beneath the varnish? Did it learn your rhythm, your sleep, your silence? The details don't add up, and that's what makes it halfway dark. If this story stuck with you, drop your theories in the comments below. What do you think was rocking the chair? The best ones I'll shout out in the next video. If you're new here, hit subscribe for more real stories that linger after dark. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for listening. Sleep tight or don't. The shadow in the corner. Tonight's story is one of those that starts off completely normal, but ends up halfway to nightmare. What you're about to hear is based on real events, bedroom photos, tenant journals, neighbor conversations, and details that still don't add up after weeks. It's the kind of case where you turn on the light and there's a shadow in the corner that wasn't there before. No coat rack, no furniture, just a tall shape standing quietly like someone is watching you sleep. If you like stories that make you question every corner in your room and check your own bedroom tonight, stick around, because this one gets stranger the longer you stare. Let's begin. In late 2025, 31-year-old writer Sophia rented a cozy one-bedroom apartment in an old walk-up building. Rent reasonable, neighbors quiet, bedroom small but cozy. Everything felt normal. First month, no problems. Then one night she woke at 3:15 a.m., reached for her phone screen light, caught the corner. A shadow, human-shaped, tall, standing against the wall. She froze, stared. It didn't move. She turned on the lamp. Shadow gone, corner empty. She told herself it was the coat rack or streetlight, went back to sleep. 2 nights later, same time, she woke again. Shadow back, taller, closer to the bed, still motionless. She didn't turn on the light, just watched. It stayed, breathing slow, almost in rhythm with hers. She pulled the covers over her head, heart pounding, waited. Morning came, corner empty, nothing to explain it. She started sleeping with the lamp on low dimmer setting. Shadow appeared anyway, faint but sharper, like it was gaining shape. She took a photo with her phone, flash on. Image showed empty corner. But in the next photo, no flash, shadow clear, outline of shoulders, head tilted slightly, watching the bed. She showed the landlord. He said old wiring, bad shadows from streetlights. She bought blackout curtains, taped them tight. Shadow still there, darker, closer each night, now standing at the foot of the bed. She felt it watching, felt the air shift when it leaned in. One night, 3:42 a.m., she opened her eyes, shadow right beside her, close enough to feel the cold. She didn't scream, just stared. On his 8th night, he posted online, "There's a shadow in my bedroom corner. It stands there every night, just watching. Anyone else see this?" He lasted 13 days. Officially, no intruder, no structural oddity, no explanation. But former tenants say the bedroom corners feel deeper at night, like the walls are holding something upright. And if you wake up suddenly, very late, when the room is dead quiet, you might see a tall shape in the corner, still, patient, waiting for you to look back. We may never know what was standing in that corner, or how long it had been waiting for someone to notice. Was it always there, patient behind the paint? Did it learn your breathing, your sleep, your fear of the dark? The details don't add up, and that's what makes it halfway dark. If this story stuck with you, drop your theories in the comments below. What do you think the shadow was? The best ones I'll shout out in the next video. If you're new here, hit subscribe for more real stories that linger after dark. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for listening. Sleep tight or don't. The light that wouldn't turn off. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine flipping your bedroom light switch off at night. Room goes dark. Quiet settles. You think the switch controls everything. That's how tonight's story begins. Ordinary, quiet, safe. But what you're about to hear didn't stay that way. It's drawn from real tenant footage, electrician logs, neighbor reports, pieces that don't add up. This isn't about monsters or screams. It's about turning the light off, walking away, and it turning itself back on. Soft glow creeps under the door, like someone is waiting in your room. If that thought makes your skin crawl, stay with me. Because once it starts, it doesn't stop halfway. In early 2026, 30-year-old librarian Nora moved into a second-floor apartment in an old house. Rent affordable, building quiet, bedroom light, simple wall switch. Everything felt normal. First week, no problems at all. One night she flipped the switch off. went to bed, fell asleep fast. Around 2:50 a.m., faint glow under the door woke her. Light was on again. She got up, opened the door, room empty, switch flipped up. She turned it off, checked the bulb, normal, went back to sleep. 2 nights later, same thing, light on, soft yellow under the door. She walked in, switch up, room empty again. She flipped it down, watched for a minute. Nothing happened. The next night she recorded it, phone propped, light off. She left. At 2:47 a.m. footage showed the switch slowly move up by itself. Click. Light on. No hand. No tool. No draft. She watched the clip, stomach dropping, unplugged the lamp, slept with it in closet. Glow stopped for 3 nights. She thought it was over. Then one night, 3:05 a.m., faint click from inside the closet. She opened the door, lamp plugged back in, light on, bulb warm. She hadn't touched it. She threw the lamp away, bought a new one, different switch type. First night with new lamp, light stayed off all night. Second night, 3:22 a.m., click light on again. She stared at the switch, watched it move up, slow, deliberate. No one in the room, just the switch flipping alone. She moved out next weekend, left the key, never returned. New tenant moved in. Single guy, gamer. On his 6th night, he posted online. Bedroom light turns on at 3 a.m. Switch moves by itself. He lasted 10 days. Officially no wiring fault, no tampering, no explanation. But electricians say the switches feel sticky, like something pushes back. If you leave a light on at night, very late, when quiet, you might hear click. Room gets brighter, like someone is finally able to see. We may never know what was flipping that switch, or how long it waited for dark to end. Was it always in the wiring patient behind the plate? Did it learn your sleep, your habits, your fear of the dark? The details don't add up, and next time you turn off your bedroom light, don't walk away too fast. Because sometimes the glow under the door isn't a mistake, it's an invitation. If this gripped you, drop theories below. What was turning on the light? Would you have unplugged everything? Best ones I'll shout out next video. New here, subscribe for more that linger after dark, notifications on. Because sometimes the scariest light is the one you didn't turn on. Thanks for listening. Sleep tight or don't. The mirror in the hallway. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine walking down your hallway at night. Lights off, phone flashlight low, thinking you're alone. That's how tonight's story begins, ordinary, quiet, safe. But what you're about to hear didn't stay that way. It's drawn from real security clips, neighbor statements, landlord logs, pieces that don't add up. This isn't about monsters or screams. It's about glancing at a mirror you've passed 1,000 times. And something in the reflection isn't moving with you. If that thought makes your skin crawl, stay with me. Because once it starts, it doesn't stop halfway. In spring 2025, minus 27-year-old barista Liam rented a 4th floor walk-up. Long dim hallway, single bulb at each end, old full-length mirror halfway down. He barely noticed it. Quick hair check before work. Rent sheep, neighbors silent, mirror had an antique frame. Everything felt normal. First late night, 2:30 a.m., he glanced at it. Reflection looked back. Tired, rumpled, same as him. But as he passed, the reflection blinked half a second late. He stopped, turned. Reflection now sensed perfectly. He laughed it off. Exhaustion. Locked his door. 2 nights later, same time. Reflection was already smiling, small, polite, while his face stayed blank. He stepped closer. Reflection raised its hand first, waving, while his hand stayed down. He backed away fast, fumbled keys, got inside, deadbolted. Didn't look again next morning. He started avoiding the hallway alone. One rainy night, power flicker, bulb out, dark walk with phone light. He kept eyes on floor. Phone caught the mirror, reflection standing still while he was moving. He stopped breathing. Reflection tilted its head, watching. He stepped forward. It didn't. Then slowly, reflection pointed right at him, finger extended, like it was saying, "You." Liam ran, slammed door, shaking. Friend said shadows, tricks of light. Liam didn't buy it. That night, 3:40 a.m., soft footsteps in hallway, stopping at his door. 3 quiet knocks, polite. He froze. Knocks again, same rhythm. Silence. Peephole, hallway empty. But in faint streetlight, mirror reflection stood facing his door. Head tilted, listening. He begged landlord to remove mirror. Historic, can't touch it. Liam covered every reflective surface. Left hallway light on. Paid extra electric. Footsteps returned every few nights. Always 3 knocks. Last night there. Phone buzzed. Camera app open on its own. Live feed. Him in bed, eyes wide. Reflection on screen, smiling wide. While his real face wasn't. He smashed phone, packed bag, left key, never returned. New tenant lasted 17 days. Posted photo of mirror. Creepy in the best way. Feels like it's watching me. Officially, no crime, no trespassing. But workers passing that mirror alone sometimes see their reflection linger, head tilted, watching them go. We may never know what waited in that glass, or how long it had been practicing your walk. Was it always there, patient behind the silver? Did it learn to smile first, knock second, wait third? The details don't add up. And next time you pass a hallway mirror in the dark, don't look too long, because sometimes the reflection isn't copying you. It's waiting to step out. If this gripped you, drop theories below. What was in the mirror? Would you have smashed it? Best ones I'll shout out next video. New here, subscribe for more that linger after dark. Notifications on, because sometimes the scariest face is the one that looks exactly like yours. Thanks for listening. Sleep tight. Or don't. The unlocked window. You've probably done this 100 times. Come home, lock the door, drop your keys, feel the day fall away. Safe. Alone. Finally. Tonight's story is about someone who did exactly that. Then something changed. It's pulled from actual events, police reports, neighbor statements, camera footage that shows too little and too much at the same time. No dramatic chase. No obvious villain. Just the slow realization that the place you thought was yours might already have company. If you're listening in the dark right now, pay attention, because this one hits closer to home than you might expect. In the early fall of 2025, a 34-year-old man moved into a small ground floor apartment in an older complex on the edge of a quiet suburb. The unit was cheap, recently painted, and came with a small patio overlooking a shared green space. He liked the privacy. Tall bushes screened the sliding glass door from the sidewalk, and the landlord had assured him the window latches were solid. He changed the locks himself the first day, tested every window, and felt settled by evening. He texted a friend, "Place is good. Finally some quiet." That first week passed normally. He worked late shifts, came home around midnight, microwaved dinner, scrolled his phone until he dozed off on the couch. Neighbors barely saw him. One said he seemed polite, but kept to himself. No complaints, no noise. On the 8th night, he woke around 3 a.m. to a faint scrape, like metal on metal, soft but deliberate. He sat up, heart thudding, and listened. The sound stopped. He checked the front door, locked, chain on. Patio door, locked, curtain drawn. Windows, all secure. He told himself it was the building settling, or maybe a branch against the glass. He went back to sleep, uneasy but exhausted. The next morning he noticed the first small thing. A coffee mug he left on the counter was now in the sink, rinsed but not put away. He hadn't touched it since the night before. He laughed it off. Maybe he was half asleep and did it himself. But the feeling lingered. 2 nights later, the scrape returned, louder this time, coming from the patio side. He crept to the curtain and peeked through a slit. Nothing, just the bushes swaying in the breeze. He opened the sliding door a crack, listened, only crickets. When he closed it, he double-checked the latch. It clicked firmly. He added a wooden dowel in the track for extra security, the kind people use on old doors. That should hold. The next day, he found the dowel on the floor inside the apartment. Not broken, not forced, just removed and placed neatly beside the door, as if someone had lifted it out carefully and set it down. His stomach dropped. He searched the apartment, closets, under the bed, shower curtain. Nothing. He called the landlord, who came over, inspected the door, and said the latch looked fine. "Maybe you forgot you took it out," the landlord suggested. He didn't argue, but he installed a cheap security camera aimed at the patio that afternoon. That night he stayed up, watching the live feed on his phone. Around 2:17 a.m., the footage glitched, just a 2-second blackout. When it came back, the patio was empty, but the dowel was gone again. He rewound, froze frames, nothing unusual before the glitch. No shadow, no movement, just a clean cut in the recording. He stopped sleeping on the couch after that. He barricaded himself in the bedroom, chair under the knob, phone in hand. The scrape didn't come that night, but something else did. A soft knock, 3 taps on the bedroom door from the hallway side. He froze. No one could be inside. He checked every inch. He called out, "Who's there?" Silence. He waited 10 minutes, then opened the door slowly. Hallway empty. Living room empty. Patio door still locked. Dowel back in place, but now the curtain was pulled aside just enough to show the glass. In the reflection of the window, he saw it, a faint outline behind him in the room. Not clear enough to make out features, just a shape that didn't match his own posture. He spun around. Nothing there. He grabbed his keys and left for a hotel that night. The police came the next day. No forced entry anywhere. No fingerprints that weren't his. The camera footage showed only the glitch. No intruder visible. They took a report, suggested he get better locks, or move if he felt unsafe. He packed a bag and stayed with family for a week. When he returned to collect the rest of his things, the apartment felt colder. On the kitchen counter, his journal open to a blank page he'd never written on. One new line in handwriting that wasn't quite his. Window was easier than the door. Next time I'll knock louder. He never spent another night there. The landlord re-rented the unit quickly. The new tenant lasted 3 weeks before breaking the lease. Said the patio door kept unlocking itself at night, even with the new chain. Officially, no crime occurred, no theft, no damage, no evidence of entry. But the complex still has that unit turn over fast. Residents talk about the quiet renter who left suddenly, and how the bushes outside that patio sometimes rustle when there's no wind. Some say they've heard 3 soft knocks on their own doors late at night, but when they check, the hallway is always empty. We may never know who or what came through that unlocked window. Was it someone watching, waiting for the right moment? Did they slip in during the day and simply never leave? Or did the apartment decide it wanted company and chose its own way to keep it? The details don't add up. And every time you check your own locks tonight, you'll wonder if you remembered to test the windows too. If this story gripped you, drop your theories in the comments below. What do you think happened? Would you have stayed? The best ones I'll shout out in the next video. If you're new here, Hit subscribe for more real stories that linger after dark. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one, because sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's outside trying to get in. It's what might already be inside. Thanks for listening. Sleep tight. Or don't. The Echo in the Canyon. Tonight's story is one of those that starts off completely normal ... but ends up halfway to nightmare. What you're about to hear is based on real events, eyewitness accounts, search party reports, and details that still don't add up after years. It's the kind of case where a prepared adventurer heads into a familiar canyon for a short trek and vanishes without a trace. No body, no obvious accident scene, just questions that keep getting darker. If you like stories that make you question the echoes in remote places, and listen a little closer when you alone outdoors, stick around, because this one gets stranger the deeper you go. Let's begin. In the spring of 2024, a 38-year-old man decided to take a solo overnight trip into a rugged canyon system in the southwest desert, an area he de-explored multiple times before. The route was a popular but challenging loop, about 12 miles total, with steep descents, narrow slots, and a few known water sources. He was experienced, carried a GPS tracker, extra water, emergency beacon, and had shared his planned route with a friend via text that morning, hitting the canyon at dawn. Should be out by tomorrow afternoon. Signal might drop, but beacon's on. He left his vehicle at the remote trailhead around sunrise. A park ranger noted his truck in the lot that day, nothing out of place. Another hiker reported seeing him descending the first switchback, backpack heavy, moving steadily. Everything appeared routine. By the next afternoon, no check-in. His friend tried calling, no answer, phone off or out of range. The emergency beacon never triggered any alert. Concerned, the friend notified authorities the following morning. The search launched quickly. Ground teams, drones, helicopters scanning the canyon walls and floor. They found his vehicle untouched, doors locked, no signs of disturbance. Inside, a half-eaten breakfast wrapper, water jugs still mostly full. On day 5, rescuers discovered his daypack wedged between two boulders about 3 miles into the canyon, off the main path, but not far from a known water seep. It was zipped closed, placed almost neatly. Inside, remaining food, a mostly full water bottle. His journal with one new entry in neat but hurried writing. Echoes following, not mine, turning back soon. No footprints extended beyond that spot in any direction. The sandy canyon floor should have held clear tracks, especially with recent light rain, but the trail ended abruptly. Search dogs picked up his scent at the pack, then lost it completely, behaving confused and refusing to track further, as if the scent trail had been erased. In the weeks after, odd reports emerged from other canyon visitors. One group claimed to hear repeated calls for help, echoing from a side slot at night, a voice saying "down here," but when they shouted back and approached with lights, the echoes stopped and no one was found. Another solo hiker described a strange, repetitive sound like footsteps mirroring his own from across the canyon, always just out of sight. Neither could be verified or located. Months later, in late 2025, a different party exploring a parallel drainage several miles away found a single water bottle, matching the brand and markings from his gear, cap still screwed on tight. It looked unused and unweathered, no dust or scratches consistent with months in the desert sun. Tests showed only trace residue inside, no fingerprints or DNA beyond faint wear. It seemed placed recently, almost deliberately. Officially, the case was listed as a probable accident, dehydration, fall into a hidden crevice, or navigation error in the maze-like terrain. But locals and repeat visitors speak of the Echo Canyons, narrow passages where sounds bounce unpredictably, signals fail entirely, and bearings can shift without warning. Some brush it off as desert illusions. Others feel there's more to the silence that follows certain calls. His family still returns to the trailhead on anniversaries, leaving small offerings and scanning the rims. The last trail cam image from the lot captures him starting down the path, pausing to look back, not toward the vehicle, toward the deepening shadows in the canyon walls. His stance in that frame doesn't look like someone heading into familiar territory anymore. We may never know what really happened in that canyon that day. Was it a slip into an unseen drop? Something echoing back from the rocks? Or just the vast emptiness swallowing one more traveler without explanation? The details don't add up ... And that's what makes it halfway dark. If this story stuck with you, drop your theories in the comments below. What do you think happened? The best ones I'll shout out in the next video. If you're new here, hit subscribe for more real stories that linger after dark. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for listening. Sleep tight, or don't. A visitor who knocks once, Daniel maintained a single rule in the small brick bungalow he inherited from his aunt. No one was permitted to knock after 9 o'clock. He had posted no sign, issued no warning to neighbors or delivery services. The rule existed privately, enforced by the simple act of never answering. For 11 years, the house remained undisturbed after dark. Packages accumulated on the porch until morning. Visitors learned to telephone ahead. Daniel preferred the certainty of silence. He had grown accustomed to the absence of interruption, and he had learned long before moving in that certain sounds once acknowledged could not be undone. The first knock came on a Thursday in March, shortly after 10. 3 measured raps, firm but unhurried. Daniel paused in the kitchen, cup suspended halfway to his lips. After several minutes, he crossed to the front door and looked through the peephole. The porch light illuminated an empty stoop, the welcome mat undisturbed. He attributed the incident to a neighbor's child testing boundaries or a misdelivered parcel. He returned to his routine. 7 nights later, the knocks returned identical cadence, identical pause between each. Again, the porch stood vacant. Daniel began leaving the exterior light off after dusk, reasoning that darkness might discourage casual mischief. The following week, the knocks sounded regardless, precise against the wood, unaffected by the absence of illumination. He stopped answering his landline after dark. He muted notifications on his mobile. He drew the curtains tightly and worked by desk lamp in the rear study, far from the front hall. The knocks persisted, always 3, always after 9, always unanswered. On the 23rd night, Daniel sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water he did not drink. The knocks arrived at 9:47. He counted them silently 1, 2, 3, and listened to the subsequent quiet stretch into minutes. At last he rose, walked the length of the hallway, and opened the door. No one stood on the threshold. The exact combination that had clung to his father's overcoat 34 years earlier. Daniel closed the door without haste and returned to the kitchen. The water in his glass had gone still. The knocks continued nightly thereafter, never varying in rhythm or force. Daniel ceased attempting to ignore them. The temperature in the hall, the way the floorboards creaked faintly beneath his own weight, but not beneath whatever waited beyond the door. One evening in early May, he sat facing the entrance, lights extinguished, hands folded on the table. The knocks came at 9:12. He rose, crossed the hall, and spoke through the wood for the first time. "I know it's you," silence answered. Then, after a measured interval, 3 more knocks, slower, softer, almost expectant. Daniel turned the knob and pulled the door inward. The porch remained empty, but in the narrow rectangle of light spilling from the hallway, a shadow fell across the mat, tall, broad-shouldered, unmistakably masculine. It did not move. It simply occupied space, aligned with the doorway, as though waiting to be invited across the threshold. Daniel regarded the shadow for several seconds. Memory arrived without drama. The night of the argument, his father's raised voice, the slammed door. The hours Daniel had spent alone in the upstairs bedroom, listening to the house settle into quiet. He had been 15. His father had never returned. The police report listed voluntary departure. Daniel had accepted the explanation because acceptance required no further questions. He stepped aside. The shadow lengthened, crossed the sill, and entered. No footsteps accompanied it. The air grew heavier by degrees, carrying the same cedar and wool scent. Daniel closed the door behind the presence and returned to the kitchen table. They sat opposite one another in the dark. Neither spoke. The shadow occupied the chair without weight, yet the atmosphere shifted as though an additional person breathed in the room. Daniel lifted his glass, took a single sip, and set it down. "I kept waiting for you to come back," he said. Then I stopped waiting. The shadow inclined its head slightly, an acknowledgement, nothing more. Daniel exhaled once, slowly. The guilt he had carried for decades, guilt for the words he had spoken, for the door he had not reopened, settled into something quieter, less corrosive. Not forgiveness, not absolution, merely recognition. After several minutes, the shadow rose without sound. It moved toward the hallway. Daniel remained seated. He heard the front door open and close with the same soft click it had always made. The knocks never returned. The house stayed silent after 9 o'clock, as it had for 11 years. Daniel continued his routines. He left the porch light on some nights and off on others. He answered the telephone when it rang. He opened the door to delivery drivers and neighbors. He no longer enforced the rules so strictly. The visitor had come, been acknowledged, and departed. The silence that followed felt earned rather than imposed. I saw someone standing in my backyard. It started one night when I stepped outside to take out the trash and noticed a figure standing at the edge of my backyard, perfectly still in the dark. At first, I thought it was a neighbor walking by, but the figure didn't move, didn't shift, and didn't make a sound, like a statue waiting silently. I froze, barely breathing, and studied the shape against the faint glow of the streetlight behind it, realizing it was taller than any person who lived nearby. The next night, I left the porch light on intentionally, watching from the window, and the figure appeared in the same spot at exactly the same time. It didn't move closer, didn't gesture, didn't speak, only stood, rigid, observing my house, waiting for me to notice, and testing boundaries I couldn't yet define. I considered calling someone, telling the police, or confronting it directly, but every instinct screamed that approaching it would be a mistake. Over the next week, I started timing it. Every night, it appeared around 2:53 a.m., staying for roughly 15 minutes before disappearing without explanation. I tried leaving my backyard light on, trying to scare it away, but the figure remained unaffected, ignoring the illumination entirely, blending into the shadows with almost unnatural stillness. Curiosity gnawed at me. I set up a small motion-detecting camera facing the area where it always appeared, hoping to catch evidence of a trespasser or prank. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. Shadows moved, branches shifted, but the figure itself appeared only in one frame, blurred and tall, its shape clearly human-like, yet impossible to define. I began sleeping with my bedroom door, lights dimmed, constantly checking the backyard, waiting for the familiar silent arrival that always made my stomach knot. One night, I stepped outside carefully, keeping the porch light off, and approached the edge of the yard slowly, hoping to catch a glimpse without alerting it. The figure was already there, waiting, its outline sharp in the darkness, taller and thinner than any human could naturally be. It didn't flinch as I moved closer, almost as if it had been expecting me to approach, analyzing every step I took across the grass. My heart raced. I wanted to run, but my feet felt heavy, my body frozen as the presence pressed down on me from the night. The figure shifted slightly, tilting forward like it was observing my face, though the darkness obscured its features entirely. I tried speaking. "Who's there?" My voice trembled. No response. Only silence, heavy and suffocating, filling the entire backyard. I took another step closer, and the figure moved too. Slowly, deliberately, always mirroring my movements without leaving its original position entirely. The air turned colder, sharper, as if the presence itself drew the warmth from around me. I backed away toward the house, trembling, and the figure followed with the same deliberate precision, stepping just enough to keep its gaze on me. I slammed the door behind me, locking it, and pressed my back against it, trying to calm my racing heart. I considered calling someone, but who would believe a silent figure standing in my yard, appearing every night at the same time? The following nights, I tried watching from the window, keeping blinds partially open, tracking the figure silently. It always appeared, always waiting, always observing. I couldn't identify features. No face, no movement of hands, no sound, yet the presence was undeniably alive, aware, and patient. Sometimes I swore it tilted its head or shifted slightly, reacting to my gaze like a predator testing its prey. Other times it appeared unmoving, statuesque, like a monument placed deliberately in the darkness, waiting for a purpose I couldn't understand. I began sleeping with my back to the window, lights dim, curtains drawn tightly, hoping to avoid its silent attention. The feeling of being watched never left. Even with the door locked, the presence felt closer, heavier, pressing against the house, pressing against the night. I set up motion-activated lights around the yard, but the figure ignored them entirely, moving in the shadows outside their illumination, always returning to the same spot. I stopped leaving the house at night entirely. Even walking to the mailbox felt dangerous, because I knew it could appear at any moment. And every night, I could feel its gaze fixed on my bedroom window, unwavering, patient, silently measuring me, waiting for me to make the next move. I know it isn't human. Whatever stands in my backyard each night is something else entirely, and it will return tonight, just as it has every night before. The shadow under the stairs. It started when I noticed a darker patch beneath the staircase, a shadow that seemed heavier than normal, like it absorbed light and shifted subtly whenever I looked at it. At first, I thought it was a trick of the lamplight or my imagination after long nights working late in the living room. But over time, the shadow moved independently, spreading slightly across the floor, creeping along the wall, always in the periphery of my vision. I tried shining a flashlight directly at it, and for a moment, it recoiled, shrinking impossibly, then returned to the same dark, heavy shape. It wasn't a person or an object. The edges were too fluid, folding into themselves in ways that made no physical sense. I began noticing tiny, claw-like imprints on the carpet at the base of the stairs, small, deliberate, and perfectly spaced, like a creature testing the ground. Sometimes I thought I heard whispering, soft, guttural, echoing from beneath the boards, words I couldn't understand, but felt press against my skull. I tried setting traps, leaving objects beneath the stairs, but in the morning they had shifted, moved slightly, as if the shadow had explored its environment. I stopped walking near the stairs at night, taking long detours through the living room, but the presence seemed aware of me, lurking, patient, waiting. One night, I dared to step closer, flashlight trembling in hand, and felt the air grow colder, heavier, like something alive breathing beneath the wood. The shadow stretched suddenly, almost human-like, with angles that made no sense, bending around corners, pressing against walls as though testing the limits of its form. I jumped back, heart pounding, but the moment I moved, the shadow followed, creeping along the floor, impossible yet deliberate, aware of my panic. It seemed to react to my attention, growing darker, more defined when I focused on it, and thinning when I looked away, almost intelligent in its concealment. I tried recording it with my phone. Playback revealed subtle distortions, edges bending unnaturally, the shadow's depth seeming three-dimensional, shifting in ways that defied logic. I considered moving out, abandoning the house entirely, but the shadow seemed tied to my awareness, patient, waiting, unaffected by doors or walls. Sometimes I swore I saw small glowing points within it, like eyes, blinking slowly, acknowledging my presence in the room without ever taking full form. I began sleeping with the light on, door closed, avoiding the stairs entirely, but every creak, every settling noise made me flinch, feeling the shadow move just beneath the floor. One night, I left a small toy at the base of the stairs, hoping to provoke movement, and the shadow stretched slowly, enveloping it, then withdrew, leaving the toy slightly rotated. It wasn't playful. It wasn't alive in a human sense. It was deliberate, aware, and patient, testing, measuring, always waiting for some interaction I couldn't yet understand. The whispers continued, sometimes behind the walls, sometimes within the shadow itself, forming distorted syllables, unintelligible yet somehow meaningful, pressing against my attention in the dead of night. I stopped leaving the living room at night. I avoided the stairs entirely, taking careful detours through other rooms, always feeling the presence lurking beneath the wood. Even with lights on, the shadow didn't disappear entirely. Its darkness lingered, oppressive, stretching farther than the stairs themselves, like it occupied more space than the room allowed. I tried recording motion sensors. No movement was detected, yet every night the impressions of weight and pressure changed subtly, as if something had shifted beneath the boards. Sometimes I swore I felt a tiny, cold touch against my ankle while passing the stairs, enough to make me stagger and look down, but the shadow remained impossible to define. I began keeping the household quiet at night. No TV, no music, no footsteps, but still, the whispers returned, scratching, pressing, patient, waiting for me to acknowledge it. The presence isn't constant. It fades into darkness occasionally, only to return in moments I least expect, reminding me that it exists, aware, grotesque, impossible. Even now, I glance at the stairs cautiously, avoiding the base, knowing the shadow waits beneath, always patient, always watching, pressing against the edges of perception I can't fully escape. And every night, when the house is silent, I can feel it shift, stretch, breathe beneath the boards, waiting for me to descend, aware, alive, and impossibly intelligent. The package left on my porch. It arrived one evening after I returned from work. A small, unmarked cardboard box sat at my front door, perfectly wrapped, with no note, no label, just plain brown edges and an unsettling weight. I didn't order anything. I examined the box from the doorway, turning it over, shaking it slightly. The sound inside was faint, like wet paper crumbling. I stepped back. The porch light flickered just once, casting long shadows across the package. I felt the hair on my neck rise, something instinctive telling me to leave it alone. I called a friend. He told me to leave it untouched, but curiosity won. I picked up the box, the weight heavier than it appeared, dense, oddly warm. At home, I set it on the kitchen counter. Every instinct screamed to open it, but I hesitated. Something about the shape inside, though unseen, felt alive. I carefully cut the tape along the edges. Inside was a bundle of old photographs, stacked unevenly, yellowed, the kind you find tucked away in forgotten drawers. I flipped the top photo. It was my house, from the street, taken at night. The angle was impossible directly from my window, inside my living room. The next photo showed me sleeping in bed. My eyes were closed, unaware, but the photo captured me perfectly from above, as if someone had been in the room. A third photo revealed a figure standing behind me, blurred, faceless, thin, stretching impossibly, only visible in the picture, nowhere in my house when I turned around. My hands trembled. I set the photos aside, heart racing, trying to convince myself it was coincidence, some bizarre prank from a neighbor or stranger. I checked all windows and doors. Locked. No footprints outside. No sign anyone had been near the porch besides the box itself. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure in the corner of the room, blurry, faceless, like it was waiting. I took the photos and compared them to the living room. Every detail matched perfectly. The rug, the sofa, the lamp. But no figure appeared now. The next morning, another package appeared on the porch. Same size, same unmarked box. My stomach sank as I realized this was deliberate, ongoing. I opened it slowly. Inside were letters, handwritten in jagged, uneven script. Each letter described a day in my life I had already lived, in minute, terrifying detail. I flipped to the last page. It read, "I see you. Always, soon, you will see me too." I locked the doors. I called friends, authorities, but there was no evidence. The boxes arrived even when I was away from home, always waiting when I returned. Each package became heavier, more substantial. Inside, objects appeared. Toys I had never owned, items from childhood, things I didn't remember possessing. I tried to ignore them, leaving them outside. Overnight, the boxes were always inside my house by morning. No explanation how. I placed cameras on the porch. The footage showed nothing. No one delivering the packages. Just the boxes appearing as if they had materialized. One night, I peeked from the window. A faint shadow lingered across the yard, tall, distorted, moving just outside the edges of visibility before vanishing. The letters began to describe events that hadn't happened yet, predicting small actions, brushing teeth, unlocking the front door, stepping onto the porch. I tried leaving town. Upon returning, the boxes were waiting, each one larger than the last, stacked neatly like some grotesque offering. I confronted the last box, shaking, opening it slowly. Inside was a single mirror, cracked, edges blackened, reflecting my room, but behind me, the figure crouched, blurred, stretching impossibly. I spun around. Nothing. I looked back at the mirror. The figure had vanished, leaving only a faint wet smear along the edges of the glass. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom. I moved to the living room, flashlight in hand, eyes darting constantly to every dark corner, every reflective surface. The packages didn't stop. They continued to arrive, heavier, more ominous, until I could no longer lift them without trembling. The letters now instructed me to wait, to watch, to listen. They promised a final delivery that would change everything. I can hear faint tapping at the door, even during the day. Heavy, deliberate, measured, as if someone or something is testing patience. I know it's coming. I know it's inside my house already, waiting for me to notice. I can't touch the boxes anymore. I can't open them, and I can't ignore them. Sometimes I see them move in the corner of my vision, tiny shifts, subtle tilts, as if breathing, watching, patient. The last letter I opened simply said, "You will see me soon." And every night since, the packages arrive earlier, heavier, and the house feels smaller, as if the walls themselves are shrinking, bending toward the front door. I can hear the tap at the porch. I know it will arrive tonight. The silent bus stop. It was almost midnight when I walked to the bus stop. Empty streets stretching ahead, the lamps flickering with a dim yellow glow. The air was colder than it should have been. I waited alone. The silence felt unnatural, like the world had paused around me, holding its breath, watching, waiting for something I couldn't see. A bus never came. Usually, the late-night route is slow but steady. Yet tonight, the street remained empty, untouched, utterly still. I checked my phone. No signal, no notifications. Even the time seemed off. Paused at 11:57 p.m., though the streetlights still hummed quietly above. Then I noticed the other side of the road. A figure stood there, still motionless, staring directly at me, frozen beneath a flickering street lamp. It wasn't waving, moving, or blinking. Just watching. Waiting. The more I stared, the more the distance between us seemed to shrink, though it didn't move. I told myself I was imagining it, but instinct screamed that something was wrong. The air around me felt thick, heavy, unnervingly close. The street seemed longer than usual. Buildings twisted slightly at the edges, like a camera lens warped reality, distorting my perception just enough to unsettle me. I tried walking forward. Every step echoed unnaturally loud, yet the figure remained at the same distance, never advancing, never retreating, just observing. I crossed the street to confront it. The instant I did, a sharp wind blew past me, carrying whispers I couldn't understand, voices overlapping in a distorted rhythm. The figure didn't react. Its head tilted slightly, unnaturally, like it was curious, testing me, measuring my resolve and fear in real time. I turned to leave. The street felt longer now. Every step stretched, dragging me forward while shadows along the walls elongated, reaching, bending, twisting in impossible angles. I could hear footsteps behind me. Slow, soft. They matched my pace, but the street was empty, the asphalt smooth, no cracks, no evidence anyone had followed. I glanced over my shoulder. Nothing. Just the flickering street lamps casting inconsistent light across the sidewalk. The whispers returned, closer now, almost forming words. They matched the rhythm of my heartbeat, pulsing with intent, forcing me to slow my pace involuntarily. The figure appeared again at the far end of the block, still static, unmoving, but somehow larger, wider, like shadows had fused to form it. I tried calling for help. My voice didn't carry. Even the echoes refused to bounce back. The city itself seemed to swallow sound tonight. The bus never arrived. The streetlights flickered faster, almost like a stutter in reality, each pulse throwing strange shapes across the walls and pavement. I began running. Every shadow stretched toward me, reaching from impossible angles, scraping against walls and street, yet never quite touching my skin. I tripped once. The whispers swirled above me, louder, denser, voices pressing into my ears, telling me to stop, to look, to see what I wasn't ready for. I scrambled to my feet. The figure now seemed to occupy every corner of my vision, flickering from lamp to lamp, always on the edge, just beyond focus. I ran faster. My lungs burned. The street seemed endless, but the figure never moved closer. It just waited, patient, omnipresent, silent in its observation. Then the wind shifted. The whispers quieted. The streetlight nearest me went out. Darkness rushed in, swallowing the asphalt, the sidewalks, everything but the sound of my panicked breathing. I fell to my knees. Something brushed past my shoulder. Cold, wet, fleeting. I dared not look. My instincts screamed to run, but my body froze. The figure appeared directly ahead. Not flickering, not blurred. Solid. Tall, thin, edges impossible, reaching slightly beyond what should have been possible in space. It tilted its head just slightly, and I could feel the weight of attention pressing down, examining, judging, learning me in a single heartbeat. I scrambled backward, my vision blurred. The street stretched again. Lamp posts became elongated, bending toward me. Shadows formed arches and tunnels, impossible geometries leading nowhere. Then I noticed movement behind me. The pavement itself seemed to ripple, as if reality were warped, testing the limits of perception. I ran blindly, unable to determine how far I'd gone. The whispers returned, overlapping, growing, pulsing against my skull, repeating my name over and over. Finally, the first hint of dawn. Streetlights flickered off. Shadows receded. The city returned to normal, empty streets stretching naturally, uninterrupted. I stopped, gasping. The figure was gone. The whispers vanished. The street returned to mundane silence, as if it had never happened. But I know it waits, patient, somewhere in the folds of the city, ready to reappear on a quiet night, at a flickering lamp, at the edge of perception. And sometimes, when I walk late, I swear I see it again, in the corner of a street lamp's glow, unmoving, unblinking, waiting for the next person foolish enough to stand alone. I work overnight at a gas station, and one customer won't leave. My shift started like any other Tuesday. The clock on the wall ticked past 2 a.m., and the only sounds were the hum of the freezers and the occasional car speeding down the empty highway outside. I was just restocking the chips when the bell above the door chimed. An old man shuffled in. He was wearing a ridiculously thick winter coat, even though it was the middle of summer. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, but his eyes were what got me. They were wide, almost unnaturally so, and a milky white color, like he was blind. But he wasn't. He looked right at me. He didn't say anything, just walked slowly up and down the aisles. He'd pick up an item, a bag of jerky, a can of soda, stare at it for a full minute, then put it back exactly where he found it. The whole time, I could feel his gaze on me, even when his back was turned. After about 20 minutes of this silent browsing, he finally came to the counter. He placed a single dusty pack of spearmint gum on the counter. "That'll be $1.59, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He just stared. He didn't reach for a wallet. He didn't move at all. "Sir?" I tried again. $1.59. He blinked, a slow reptilian movement. Then he smiled. It was the wrong kind of smile. It didn't reach his eyes, and it showed too many teeth, all slightly yellowed and sharp. "I'll wait," he rasped, his voice like gravel scraping on concrete. "Wait for what?" I asked, my heart starting to thump against my ribs. "For the morning," he said, his smile widening. He then turned and walked over to the small seating area by the window, the one with the cracked vinyl chairs, and he sat down. Just sat there, staring out into the pitch-black night. An hour passed. He didn't move a muscle. I tried to ignore him, wiping down counters that were already clean, rearranging magazines that were perfectly straight. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I glanced over, his head was turned just slightly, those milky eyes fixed on me. I called my manager, Dave. He told me I was being paranoid. "Just an old guy waiting for a ride. Probably," he said. "Don't call the cops unless he actually does something." But he was doing something. He was making my skin crawl. Around 4 a.m., the power flickered. The lights buzzed, dimmed, then went out completely, plunging the store into darkness. The only light came from the emergency exit sign, casting a hellish red glow over everything. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone's flashlight. I shined it towards the seating area. The chair was empty. My breath hitched in my throat. The bell on the door hadn't chimed. He couldn't have left. "Hello?" I called out, my voice weak. Silence. I swept the beam of light across the store. Aisle 1, empty. Aisle 2, empty. Then I heard it. A soft, wet scraping sound. It was coming from aisle 3, the snack aisle. The same one I was restocking when he came in. I took a hesitant step forward, my flashlight beam shaking. The scraping stopped. I held my breath, listening. A low chuckle echoed from the darkness at the end of the aisle. "Almost morning," a gravelly voice whispered, seemingly from right beside my ear. I screamed and spun around, shining my light everywhere, but there was nothing, just empty space. The power suddenly clicked back on, blinding me for a second. The store was just as it was, and sitting in the chair by the window, as if he'd never moved, was the old man. He was looking at me, holding up the pack of spearmint gum, and he was smiling that awful, terrible smile. The sun is starting to rise now, but he's still here. And I don't think he's waiting for a ride anymore. I think he's waiting for me.